So here, I have a card that says 1. And here, I have a card that says 2. Let's see that again. Here, I have a card that says 1. And here, I have a card that says 1. What you have just seen is the OTT move in action. Essentially, this is a false switch. And I'm sure you would agree it looks absolutely identical to a real switch. Now, by itself, it seems like it means nothing. But when you see it or use it in the context of a routine, that's when you'll realize just how powerful this technique is. So now I'm going to show you how this move works and how you'll be able to do it. It's really easy, and I'm willing to bet that you'll be able to do it on your very first attempt. Then we'll take a look at my favorite routine that utilizes this move, and then I'll share with you plenty of extra exciting things too. Now let's take a look at the method. So here I have 2 cards. I've written the word 1 on one of them and the word 2 on the other one. This is just so that it's easy for you to follow on camera. And if you want to grab some of your own cards to do this, to follow along, please do. You can use anything. Business cards, billets, folded playing cards, it's up to you. So you're going to have one of the cards folded in half and then in half again, and you place it on the table like a little tent. And it's nice to place this a little bit further away from you. Don't put it right in front of you, just put it off to the side. The other card is folded in the same way. And what I've done here for you to follow along easier on camera is I've put a little black X on each side of this, just so it's easier for you to see. Now what's happening is, you're going to make it look like you're swapping these cards over, but you're not. You're going to give the same card back to yourself with the move. So what you'll be doing is you'll be gripping the card between your first and your middle finger like this. And then as you reach across for the other card, you're going to move over the top of it. That's why it's called the over the top move, the OTT move. Because if you can remember what it's called, you can remember how to do it. So it's grip between these first 2 fingers. You move over the top of the card that's on the table as you use your thumb to pick it up. And then you're going to rotate your wrist and you're just going to move your middle finger out of the way. You'll be letting go of the same card again. And as you do that with a flick of the wrist, you're throwing it back to your hand over here that's waiting to catch it. And the same card comes back to you. Now this is so easy to do. I'm willing to bet that you'll be able to do it more or less on your first try. But just so I can be absolutely clear, let's take a look at this again. The card is placed a little bit away from you. You'll grip the card between your first 2 fingers. You go over the top of the card that's on the table as you pick it up. You rotate your wrist and let go with your middle finger here to throw the same card back to yourself. And then the card that's in this hand here, you're just going to place it back on a table. I think that's what helps sell it as well when you place this card back down. So, to show you this at full speed, it looks like this. That's it. Now you know what the move looks like. I'm going to hide these crosses, and here's the move again. You would swear that they were being switched. So here's what a real switch looks like. All right, that was a real switch. Let's take a look at the real switch again. Okay, now let's take a look at the OTT move. They just look, I mean, I don't know about you, but to me these look identical, and the same card is coming back to me. There's a few little tips here. Now, even though the move is so simple, when I've taught this to other performers, I've noticed a pattern in things. When they first try this, I've noticed a pattern in things that they struggle with. So I imagine you might have the same sort of issue. So I'll go over those now. Firstly, the card that's on the table, don't have it too close to yourself. Because you know you're doing something sneaky. Now the thing is, spectators never see this. It just flies by. Nobody has ever caught me with this. Now it feels risky and it feels a little bit bold because of what you're doing. And there are times when I've done this and I think, I can't believe I got away with that. But you get away with it every single time. So you can relax. Don't have it too close to you, because I know it feels like, oh, this has got to be done quick and get it out of the way. But don't have it too close to you. Place it off to the side, because in some of the routines you'll be performing, it's meant to be placed off to the side anyway. We'll leave that there. We'll deal with it later. Then you have this card over here. And now to do the move, you're reaching over, you're doing the move, and then you're coming back. So you're going to it for a moment, then you're coming back. So here's the card with the X's on. This one is over here out of the way. I do the move, I place it down, I come away from it again. So just to show you, if I disguise those crosses, We'll take a look at this one in a moment, but for now, let's take a look at the one on the table. And I imagine you can feel the difference there with the same card coming back to me again. We'll look at this one in just a moment, but for now, let's take a look at this one over here. And you'll notice my wording, it's fluid with what's meant to be happening. I'm talking as though, yeah, we'll put this one away, let's take a look at this one. And it'll take a moment or so for your brain to kind of let this fall into place, but that's what's happening. As you're talking, your wording is natural, and just treat the move naturally as well, and it will appear natural. One other thing that I've seen other performers struggle with is, because they know what they're doing, they're trying to do it quickly, right? And I've seen performers do this. They'll go to do the OTT move, and then they'll do this. And they think it has to be fast. They think in order for it to be deceptive, it has to be fast. But if you do that, that's what's going to make it look unnatural. Don't speed this up. What makes this deceptive is the smooth, natural flow, and it doesn't have to be fast. It'll look more unnatural if you're trying to do it quickly. Because why on earth would you do that? If you were swapping those for real, why would you do this? Why would you say, okay, we'll look at this one in a moment, but for now, let's take a look at this one. Why would you do that? Please don't do that. And then there's every risk that you're not going to catch it. This will be at its most deceptive if you just go at a good, standard, natural pace. Go at the pace that you would go if you were switching them for real. And that's when it's at its most deceptive. So place the one off to the side, a little bit away from you. Don't do this too fast. Let it be at its own speed. And you're not throwing this card to yourself. You're not using force to get this over there, because stuff like that happens. It's just a natural, nice flick. And then there's a much better chance that you'll be able to catch it. And that is it. That is the OTT move. So before we move into the rest, pause this video, go and practice it. It won't take you long to learn at all. Learn the move, and then come back and we'll take a look at some of the routines that you can use it with. So when the cameras stopped a moment ago, I realized I'd forgotten to mention one more thing. And I could have just left this out, but I want to make sure you've got absolutely all of the information and the little subtleties that will help you out. If you're not comfortable with the throw, you can just pass it to yourself. And if you were to pass it to yourself, it looks like this, right? You can just do that. So let me hide these X's so you can see what it looks like with passing it to yourself. You can do that. And if you're performing outside and it's extremely windy and you're not confident that you'll be able to catch it, then absolutely just pass it to yourself. And again, maybe that's a great way to learn it as well. Maybe start with that. Start with just passing it to yourself. So again, I go to do the move, I pick this up, and instead of throwing it, I'm just passing that same card back to myself in order to do essentially the exact same move. And then when you're comfortable with that, then you can start giving it that little flick and letting go of it and letting it fly over to your other hand. Really, really easy to do. I know it doesn't need to be taught in this much detail, but I would rather over-teach it than under-teach it, just so you've got absolutely everything and you'll be able to do the move flawlessly. So now you know how to do the OTT move, let's take a look at how you could use it in a performance. See, as I said at the beginning, by itself, the move is seemingly meaningless. But it's when you use it in the context of a routine, that's when it becomes incredibly powerful. And I just love how this very simple but very deceptive move can open up new opportunities within mentalism that will allow you to do some incredible things. And that's the main reason why I've put this project together. I didn't want to just teach you the move. I want to show you some of the incredible things that you can do with the move itself. So what I'm about to show you first is my absolute favorite routine to perform that utilizes the OTT move. I call it collateral. This is a drawing duplication. It begins very simple. Your spectator draws something and then you're trying to read their mind and figure out what it is. The reason why I called it collateral is because of the presentation. You see, your spectator has done a drawing, and whilst you're trying to read their mind to figure out what this drawing is, there are other things that you see along the way. You see, if you could really read minds, if you could really get inside somebody's mind and you've got a target thought that you're trying to get to, then it makes sense that along the way there are a few other thoughts and a few other things in that spectator's mind that you couldn't ignore, and you bring those into play and you are able to reveal them too. And the things that you can reveal can be anything, can get as personal as you want it to be. I'll leave the decisions down to you, but you can reveal whatever you want. So I'm going to show you a performance now. This is something we filmed yesterday, and I'm performing it on D. Christopher. Now, as you may or may not know, D is a mentalist and a magician, and he knows the methods to the routine that I show him. But I asked him to play the role of a spectator just so that you could see how this routine would look in the real world. So let's take a look at the performance now, and then afterwards we'll talk about the method and everything else that you need to know to be able to perform the routine. All right, so D, we're going to try something. Essentially, I'm going to try and read your mind. Now, there's this idea that in the same way we share the same physical reality, the idea is we also share...
the same wardrobe.
And the same, and the same wardrobe, clearly. We didn't plan this, did we? So, we share the same physical reality, the same wardrobe, and there's this theory that we also share the same mind. That there is just one mind that we all have access to and can go into at any time. It's like an ocean that's infinite in all directions. Now, everything that we label as our own mind, so our thoughts, our memories, our beliefs, our ideas, and everything is just our own personal portion of the greater whole. In fact, Schrödinger himself said the total number of minds in the universe is one, and that the multiplicity of minds is an illusion. Now, everything you call your mind might be 1,000 miles away from everything I call mine. But using the techniques I'm going to show you now, hopefully, I'll be able to bring our minds close enough together to share the same thoughts and maybe even the same feelings. Should we give it a go?
I think we should.
All right, excellent. So I'm going to ask you to do something first, and then afterwards I'll explain why we've done that. But I'm going to hand you a piece of paper and a pen, and I'm going to look this way so that I can't see what you're drawing. But I'd like you to draw a very simple picture of anything you like. So this could be completely random. It doesn't have to be fancy or detailed or anything like that. It can be anything you like. As long as it's recognizable. So please don't draw your abstract interpretation of the meaning of life. As much as I'd love to see that, we'll save that for another day. But I'm going to hand these to you. I'm going to look this way so that I can't see. And don't show anybody else. And don't let the cameras see either. I'm going to look this way. And when you've done your drawing, turn it over and put your name on the back of it. Perfect. You got your name on the back?
I have.
All right, excellent. So we'll put it back in the middle of these. Perfect, thank you. And you didn't show the cameras, did you?
I did not.
All right, excellent. So in a moment, I'm going to take the very next card off the top to do my own drawing. But before I do that, I need to explain a couple of things. Whatever you've drawn doesn't matter. What matters is the fact that you've drawn something. You've given me a target now. This is almost like dropping a pin on a map. It gives me something to work towards to try and find my way. Now, along the way, I will see a few extra things in your mind. I will tell you everything that I see and everything that I feel. And these aren't going to be things that you wouldn't want me to know. They're not going to be personal or your deepest, darkest secrets or anything like that. But if anything comes up, I will let you know.
Cool.
All right, then. So firstly, I get a sense that you always had this idea in mind of how you wanted your future to be. You had this perfect future, this perfect image of your future in your mind. But I think recently something new has come into your life that's maybe motivated you and inspired you to take your life in a different direction that not only benefits you but everybody around you. Would you say this is...
It's almost like you've known me for 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. All right. There's something else I'm seeing. I can't quite figure out what this is. It's like a cloud and it's an emotion. This is it's love. It feels like love. All right, so here's what we'll do. In a moment, not yet, but in a moment, I'm going to ask you to put your hand over your heart. And the very second you do that, the image of someone you love will appear in your mind. All right?
Yeah.
And it's not going to be me. All right, so put your hand on your heart.
Okay.
Excellent. Did somebody appear?
Someone's there.
All right, excellent. Keep them in your mind for a moment. I'm going to make a note of this before I forget. And I'm going to go with... Right, I think it's this. I hope this makes sense to you, what I've written. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but we'll see in a moment. But I'm going to leave that there. You can put your hand down now. This person that appeared in your mind, who was that?
It's my good friend Jack.
Your good friend Jack?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. All right, I'll show you this in just a moment then. Let's get back on track. Let's focus on your drawing now. I think I'm close enough to it to figure out what this could be. This is something gentle And there's one in this room, I think.
Perhaps. I mean,
Yeah, I think.
it's a bit like me.
Okay, I think I know what this is then. This. Okay, perfect. This is what I think you've drawn. If I'm wrong, I'll still show you, but I'm gonna go with this. Now, before you look at this, let me show you what I got here. A moment ago, when you placed your hand on your heart, you thought of your friend Jack.
Correct.
Yeah, this makes sense to me now. So friend Jack is exactly what I got.
Amazing.
And now, before you look at this, what did you draw?
A butterfly.
Oh, so there is one in this room. A butterfly. And yeah, and there also is a butterfly in this room. And you could have drawn absolutely anything in the world, but a butterfly is what you chose. Take a look at what I saw.
It's a butterfly.
Butterfly is exactly what I got. And just for fun, let's take a look at your drawing. I want to see if...
not quite as artistic as the one on your hand.
Oh, and there it is. A beautiful butterfly. And there we go. So now let's take a look at the method. All you need is a stack of business cards and a pen, and that's it. I like to use business cards that are blank on both sides. You can use that as well if you want to, or if you've got your own business cards with your contact information on, they will work just as well. As long as on the back of your cards you've got space to write on and draw on, then they'll work absolutely fine. You could even use a deck of double blank playing cards, that will also work, but whatever you choose to use is up to you. The amount in the stack doesn't matter. I think there's about 30, 35 cards here. It really doesn't matter, you just need a good stack of them and a pen, and that's it. There's no setup, you're always ready to begin. So, you hand your spectator a card along with a pen, and you ask them to do a very simple drawing. Now in this section, I'm not going to really talk about the presentation and some of the wording I use, we're just going to look at the most basic method. So, spectator has a card and a pen. You're asked them to do a drawing. In this case, I'm just going to do a love heart, so this is nice and easy. Whilst your spectator is doing the drawing, you're looking away, and you still have the stack of cards in your hand. All you need to do is this. You lift up about half of the stack, and then the card inside, the card that you've just got to, you're going to get a pinky break underneath it. And you're just going to slide this aside, get the tip of your pinky finger in there and square everything up. So it just separates this card from the rest of the pack. And then you just wait like this until your spectator has done their drawing. If you need your hand for whatever reason, you can grip this like so, just while you do whatever you need to do. But essentially, you're just going to stay like this until their drawing is done. Once the drawing is done, before you turn back around, just make sure they've turned it face down. It doesn't happen often, but there are times when I've turned back and the drawing is still face up. So before you turn back to them, just say, all right, make sure it's turned over so that nobody can see what it is. And if you want to, you don't have to do this, but I just like to do it because it looks nice. You can ask them to write their name on the back. So in the performance, D wrote his name, so I'll just put D on here. This also ensures that they have turned it over, because if you say turn it over and write your name on the back, it's very difficult to misunderstand those instructions. So they've done the drawing, they've turned it over, they've put their name on the back. I'm in this situation here. From here, all I'm going to do is turn to my spectator and say, excellent, we'll place it back in the middle here. Now, you don't need to worry about anybody seeing this because your other hand is covering it. So the most sensitive angle, which is this, it's covered by all of this, so nobody can see it. Excellent, we'll leave it in the middle of these. Now, if you're worried about them trying to put the card anywhere else, just don't look at them. It's a nice little subtlety. Say, okay, I'm not going to look, just place it back in the middle of these, and they understand that you're not looking, they'll just place it right in the middle there. So, the spectator places their card on top here, which is essentially going on top of the card where the break is. So it goes on top, and then all you need to do is drop everything else back on top, but you're keeping the break. So now what you have here is a stack of cards, your break, a blank card, the card that contains the spectator's drawing, and then the rest of the stack. From here, all you need to do is secretly, in your own way, using your own preferred method, is to cut these packets. Right, so everything above the break needs to go to the bottom of the stack. I prefer to do a classic pass, and as I'm sure you saw it in the performance, it wasn't very well covered. That's because it's on camera, but in a live setting, nobody sees it. If you don't want to do a classic pass, you can do a double undercut. I really don't like the double undercut, but if it works for you and you know how to do it, that's great also. So a double undercut would look like this. It looks like you're just giving the cards a little mix. Essentially, this lands you in the same situation as a classic pass. Now, if you can't do a double undercut, if you can't do a classic pass, don't worry. I'll be talking about those in another section. But realistically, especially the classic pass and the double undercut, there are many, many sources out there where you can learn these. These are moves that are done with playing cards, but they are much, much easier to do with business cards. All right, so here's the situation we've ended up in. I have the entire stack of cards. Then underneath the bottom card is my spectator's drawing. Right? So let me go over that one more time very quickly. The spectator has placed their card inside here. I close all of this together and I do a classic pass. That's it. Now I can let go of the break, I can let go of everything, I'm ready. So I have the stack. Underneath the bottom card is my spectator's drawing. All I need to do from here is turn the stack over. But I do that as I'm talking. I say, okay, we'll leave your card in the middle of these. And I'm going to take the very next one on the top to do my own drawing. That's what I say. But all I've done is I've turned the pack over. So once again, the drawing is on the bottom. As I'm talking, I pick these up to show both sides. And then when I put it back the other way. So now if I was to move this top card out of the way, you'll see the spectator's drawing right here. And the nice thing is, if you're using double blank cards, they've drawn on one side of their card and they've written their name on the other. And it's gone into the middle. So the nice part is when you're showing both sides of these, they can clearly see that their card is nowhere to be seen. It's just a nice little subtlety. So I've turned the stack over, and if I was to lift this top card, I get a nice big peek at my spectator's drawing. So I tilt my hand up, and this is how I get my peek. I say to them, okay, now in a moment, I'm going to take the very next card off the top to do my own drawing, but before I do that, I need to explain a couple of things, and now I've got my peek. So what's happening here is I tilt my hand up because when I lift that top card off, I don't want anybody to accidentally see this. I tilt my hand up as I pick up the top card. Now I'm talking about the card. It's very tempting. The peek is right there. The drawing is right there, but I don't look at it yet. Otherwise it would look like this. I'd be picking this up and I'd be looking. And so my spectators are going to think, well, what are you looking at? So I don't look at it yet. I'm talking about this card. I say, in a moment, I'm going to take the very next card off the top to do my own drawing. But before I do that, I need to explain a few things. And then as I'm bringing this card back to the stack, my eyes follow it. And then I move straight to the peak, and that's when I have a good look at my spectator's drawing. And then I cover it with this, and now it's safe for me to show both sides of these again. So one more time. As I'm talking, I pick these up. I'm turning the stack over. I'm ready to do my peek. I tilt this up. I say, in a moment, I'll take the very next card off the top to do my own drawing. But before I do that, I need to explain a couple of things. And now I've peeked it. From here, I place all of these face down on the table. So the spectator's drawing goes back to the bottom. That's because I'm going to be taking some of these cards to draw on. And I'm going to be taking 2 of these cards during the performance. And if I didn't turn those over, so the drawing is here, if I don't do this, if I were to just put these down, when I lift this up to do a drawing, they're going to see what's going on here, and I don't want that to happen. So just so that everything is safe, I've got my peek, I place these face down on the table, and now everything from here is very, very easy. I explain what's happening. They've done a drawing, and I'm going to read their mind and figure out what it is, but along the way, I might see a few extra things. And if you want to use the exact wording and the exact scripting that I use, feel free to go and watch the performance again. So, my reading process begins. I'll throw out a few lines here and there about their personality or what I feel is going on in their life. There's not really any method to that. I just do it. And then I say, okay, I get this feeling of love. Now, I like to reveal the name of a loved one. You don't have to do that. We'll talk about some alternatives later on, but in this example, I'm going with the name of a loved one. So I don't want to say to them, think of somebody you love. I want to dress it up in a nicer and prettier way. So I say to them, in a moment, but not yet, in a moment, I'm going to get you to place your hand on your heart. And the very second you do that, the face of somebody you love will appear in your mind. So do that for me now. It's a much prettier way of asking them to think of somebody important to them. And I use this throughout all of my mentalism now. I won't just say to somebody, think of someone important to you. Think of your father's name. Think of your mother. I don't do that. It's just nicer. And there's not really any method to that. It just happens anyway. Place your hand on your heart. The very second you do that, the face of someone you love will appear in your mind. Do that for me now. And then straight away I say, excellent, do you see them? Perfect. Think about that person for a moment, and I'm going to write this down before I forget. So I behave as though I'm going to write down that it's something to do with this person. They're sat here, they've got someone in mind. Excellent, let me write this down before I forget. Now what I do is I pick up another card, And all I'm writing down is whatever I just peeked. So in this case, it was a love heart. I'm not going to draw it, I'm going to write it. So I behave as though I'm trying to figure out what this person's name is that they're thinking of. And I'm just writing down love heart. It's just what I peeked. Then I'm going to fold this up as I say, okay, I'm not sure about this. I'll show you in just a moment, but we'll leave this right here. And now all I do here is I behave. I behave as though what I've written in there has got something to do with the person they're thinking of. So I say, okay, and I make a big deal about this. I want them to remember that it was written before they said anything. Okay, so before you look at that, can you tell us all who is the person that you're thinking of? And let's say they said, oh, my father, my dad. I go, excellent, I want to get some more information here. So I say, oh, what's your dad's name, if you don't mind me asking? And let's say they say John. I say, all right, excellent. And I look at them and I smile and I say, all right, I'll show you this in just a moment then. But remember, I still need to figure out what it is that you've drawn. So think about your drawing. And from here, because I know it's a love heart, I can describe it in any way I want. Think of the drawing, okay, this is I think this is a symbol of some sort. It's not a physical item, and maybe it represents an emotion or something like that. And of course, you can get as many hits as you need to here because you know what the drawing is. You say, okay, I think I've got it. I'm not going to draw this, I'm going to write down what I think this is. And now, they've just told me they were thinking of their dad, John. So on this card, all I'm going to do is write down dad, and I'm going to write down John. So just so that you can see what I've written, it's here. Then I'm going to fold this up as I say, this is what I think you've drawn. This is what I'm going to go with. But before I show you this, and then at this point I'm ready to do the OTT move. So I fold this up. This is what I think you've drawn. But before I show you this, let's take a look at what I wrote down over here. And what's happening is the same card has just come back to me. You see, in a real life setting, I've just written, I'm confusing myself here. In a real life setting, I've just written Dad, John, and that's the one that contains the drawing. But my spectator believes, they believe this is the one that contains the name of the loved one, and this is the one that contains the drawing, when the truth is it's the other way around. So this is where the OTT move is perfect, because it creates the illusion that you're swapping them. So one more time, this is what I think you've drawn, but before I show you this, let's take a look at what I wrote down here. Now, when I wrote this, it didn't make sense to me, but you said you were thinking of your dad and his name is John. That's exactly what I got. And then I reveal it to them as though it was the card that was there at the beginning, but it wasn't. I then hand this to them. I don't need to do anything else. I simply say, okay, and your drawing, we still don't know what you've drawn. So tell us all, what did you draw? And I can't even remember. Oh yeah, a love heart. Oh, a love heart. Excellent. You could have drawn anything in the world. Take a look at what I got. And I leave it for them to open. They open this up, they show it to everybody, and it says love heart. And there you go, the routine is done. And what's beautiful about this is you can reveal absolutely anything. It doesn't have to be the name of a loved one. And it makes sense. If you could read minds for real, yes, you've got the drawing, that's your target, that's what you're trying to get to. But along the way you go, I'm noticing something else here. Let me write this down. This is something important. It's just a perfect way of adding an extra reveal into the routine. So now let's take a look at a few variations and a few subtleties before we move on to the bonus ideas utilizing the OTT move. So now let's take a look at a great way of performing the collateral routine utilizing the Orphic wallet. If you already have the Orphic wallet, this is a great way and a much quicker way of performing the routine. If you don't have an Orphic wallet, you can get them from your local magic dealer or your favorite magic dealer or from the 1914.com. But just so you know, you don't need the Orphic wallet to perform the routine, as you've just seen. All right, so this is probably my favorite way of doing this because my Orphic wallet is always in my pocket and there's always business cards in there. So this is my setup, and it's not even really a setup, it's just a layout, how I like to have things ready. So inside the wallet, I have a handful of business cards at the back. So on the inside pocket, right here at the back, there's a handful of cards. And then I just have 2 more business cards. So I don't need to overstuff this. You only need 3 cards in total. But I have 1 at the back, and I have 2 here at the front. The reason why I have 2 at the front is because in the routine, as you'll see in a moment, I need to grab both of them at once. And I need to do it at a good pace. I don't want to be stuck fiddling for 2 cards. So I just put 2 cards there and they're easy to grab. And then I'm set, I'm ready to go. So let me move these out of the way. I have my pen, my wallet's in my pocket always, so I'm always ready to do this routine. So it goes like this. I open up the wallet, I let my spectators see the inside of it as I remove a card from the back. I ask them to do a drawing, and when it's done, they turn it face down so that nobody can see what it is. So in this case, let's just do a smiley face, a terrifying smiley face. They turn it face down as I take it from them. I say to them, excellent, we'll leave it in here. And a nice line that I like to use when I take the card from them is, now I promise I won't look, otherwise there'll be no point in us doing this. We're going to leave that nice and safe in there. And I place it into the peak section of the wallet. So then when this is opened, I'll be able to see it. So once again, they do the drawing, they turn it over, I take it back from them. I say, now I promise I won't look, otherwise there'll be no point in us doing this, but I'm going to leave that nice and safe in here. And now I place this on the table. I don't need to peek it. If you want to justify putting the card in the wallet, you can use a line that's one of my favorites. I say, look, we've just taken something that belongs to me and combined it with something that belongs to you. And that's what I'm trying to do with our minds. It's like a physical representation of what we're doing mentally, or whatever you want. So I don't need to peek. The card is in there. I begin the routine. I give a few lines of a reading. Again, there's no method to that. You just do it. If you don't know how to give readings, you don't actually have to give readings. You just talk at this point. You begin the routine at this point. You say, okay, I'm trying to figure out what you've drawn, but there's something else that I can't ignore. It's like this really strong emotion. Here's what we'll do. In a moment, put your hand on your heart. The face of someone you love will appear in your mind, and you go into that. They're thinking of a loved one. You say, excellent. Let me write this down before I forget. Now this is where I get my peek. I pick up the wallet, I open it up, I get a nice big look at what they've drawn here as I reach for those 2 cards that I placed in at the beginning. I take out both cards, I've peeked the drawing, I close this, put it down, I don't need this anymore. I've got 2 cards. I say to them, okay, just think about this person. And now here, of course, I'm writing down what I've just peeked. So I'm just gonna write smiley face. And I like to cover the back of the card as well, just to disguise what I'm writing, or if they can see what's going on, I just like to cover it, and it also gives me something to lean on. Smiley face. I fold this up. Okay, this might not make sense to you, I'm hoping it will, but we'll leave this here for just a moment. Before you look at that, tell us all, what's the name of the person you're thinking of? It's my dad, John. Excellent, I'll show you this in just a moment. But first, let's continue with what we started. Let's focus on that drawing. This is something to do with the human body. Whatever this is, you have one of these, is that right? Okay, I'm gonna write down what I think this is. And now, of course, I'm writing Dad and John. Basically, I'm just writing the information they've given me. I fold this up. All right, then. So I think this is what you've drawn. This is what I'm going to go with. But before I show you this, let's take a look at what I wrote here. You were thinking of your dad, John. When I wrote this, it didn't make sense to me, but now it makes perfect sense because that's exactly what I got. And there it is. There's the reveal. And your drawing. Tell us all, what did you decide to draw? Smiley face. Take a look. They open this up, and of course, that's when you get smiley face. And the nice thing here is the wallet is still there. So you can say, and just for fun, let's take a look at your drawing. And there it is. The wallet goes back into the pocket and the routine is finished. And that's just a great way of using the Orphic wallet with the collateral routine and, of course, the OTT move. So now that you've seen my favorite routine to perform utilizing the OTT move, I'm going to share with you now a couple of other things that I know you're going to get excited about because I get excited about them as well. I'm not going to be showing you full routines with presentations start to finish. There's not really any point. You already know the OTT move, so now I'm just going to give you a few extra ideas that you can take that utilize the move and then build routines and presentations around them. I think that'll be the best way to approach this. And I recommend please watch all of these because even if there's only one of these that you perform, it'll be totally worth it for me. So watch them all, choose your favorites, and then go out there and blow some minds. So firstly, the first thing I want to talk about is something I call intuition versus guessing. And this is a great routine for if somebody asks you, how did you do that? How long have you been able to do this? Is this something I could ever do? I mean, and the thing is, if a spectator says to you, is this something I could ever learn? You could just point them to the 1914 and they'll be able to learn it all, but obviously you're not going to do that. You want to still inspire them. They're not, when people ask you for a method or how you did something, that's not really what they're looking for. You just want to inspire them. And this is a great way of doing that. It's a great routine. Also, it allows your spectator to appreciate just how difficult it is. So if you, let's say you frame your performances as intuition. I'm an intuitive artist. I use my intuition. By using this routine I'm about to show you, you're having your spectator use their intuition, and it inspires them because they get this right, but it also kind of gives them a new perspective on what you're doing. If your performance is believable, they'll look at it and think, okay, well, if that's what he's doing, I appreciate it more now. I've tried it and it worked for me, but you know, imagine how difficult it is to do this all the time, or whatever. I think I'm looking too far into this. Let's just look at the routine. Intuition versus guessing. There'll be two bits of information that you're going to have your spectator reveal here. One of them they're going to get wrong, and they are supposed to get it wrong. The presentation is built like that. So you just need 2 business cards and a pen, and that's it, and you're ready to go. So you say to your spectator, all right, so the difference between intuition and guessing is this. When you just guess something that's random off the top of your head, you just give it a go, you have a guess. But when you use your intuition, it comes from a different place within you. It's something that feels right. You're paying attention to your inner voice and your inner feelings, and you're relying on that. And more often than not, it's more powerful than guessing and much more useful. So that's what I'm going to have you do. I'm going to have you use your intuition to try and pick up on something, and then I'm going to have you guess something. And then at the end, we'll take a look at the results, and hopefully they'll speak for themselves. So firstly, using your intuition, because that's what inspires me more. I'm going to write down the name of somebody important to me, somebody in my life, somebody who you don't know. Just to give you a little bit of a clue, this is going to be a female. I'm going to write down the name of a female, if that helps you in any way. But I don't want you to guess this. If you try and guess this, you will get it wrong. So before you do anything, let me write down this person's name. Okay. This is the name of the person. Now, if you get this wrong, that's fine. It doesn't matter, because there's no way that you could logically know this. It just has to be intuitive, it has to be a feeling. But this is the name of the person I'm thinking of. Just pay attention to your feelings. Don't change your mind. Just stick with whatever comes to you. But just right now, what do you feel this person's name is? And I'm not saying what do you think. I'm saying what do you feel this person's name is? And let's say they say Mary. I look at them and I smile. I go, okay, interesting. And that was using your intuition. You said Mary. Now, before I show you what the name is, we now need to take a guess at something. Now, as I said at the beginning, guessing is random. So I'm going to make this random as well. I'm going to write down the name of a country. This is a place that I visited last year. Not really any meaning behind it, but it's, you know, if you're guessing and it's random, this might as well be random as well. This is a place I visited last year. Okay. I'm going to fold this up. Excellent. And just guessing, just randomly off the top of your head, what's the place? And let's say they say, I don't know, Australia. I go, okay, interesting. Well, the thing is, I first had you use your intuition to guess the name of somebody important to me, or to pick up on the name of somebody important to me. And this is what I'm more excited to show you. Now, you guessed Australia. Take a look at the place I actually wrote down. And they open this up. And I put France. I say, and that was just guessing. But when you used your intuition, I couldn't even contain my excitement when you said Mary, because that's exactly who I was thinking of. And I think this goes to show next time you need to make a decision in your life, you should always listen to your intuition. And it's just a nice little thing. So it's framed in such a way that they get one of them wrong. The intuition is supposed to be better than the guessing. So you got your 2 cards, you pick one of them up, and I'm using a name and a place here. And it's just inspired by the Bob Cassidy routine where you reveal a name and a place. I just think they are 2 good topics to include. Of course, you can change them and do whatever you want, but for me, a name and a place works. So I pick this up, I write down a country, and I fold this up. And I have them make an intuitive guess. And you can frame this or present this however you want. But whatever name they say, whatever they come out with, that's when you smile and you go, okay, interesting. And you behave as though you can't hide the fact that something good has happened here. So, Mary. And I go, all right then. Before you look at this, again, we need to take a guess at something. And then you justify the fact that it's random. Okay, this is a place, this is somewhere I visited last year, so I'm going to write this down now. And then you just write down the name they just said. Mary. And then from here, you close this up. You have them make the guess. What's the place? Australia. You go, okay, interesting. Now, the one I'm more excited to show you is your intuition, your intuitive impression that you received. You guessed Australia. Take a look at what I actually wrote, and then you kind of downplay this because it's going to be wrong. If they get it right, I don't know what to say to you. I'm sure you'll figure that out if it happens, but you want this one to be wrong because you want to demonstrate to them that their intuition is much stronger than guessing. And I think that's just a lovely thing that you can do with no setup. If you can do any psychological forces and you can rely on them, such as psychologically forcing a country or a city or whatever, this could be a double intuitive thing, so they intuitively get two things. But for me, it's more fun to show them the difference between guessing and intuition. And then you can even say to them, look, you've just done this. You tried to guess something and it didn't work, but then you used your intuition and look how accurate you were. So keep that in mind when you see me doing the rest of the things that I do, because I'm only using the same technique that you have just used. And there it is, as simple as that. Have fun with it. So just a little note before we move on. In the very, very rare situation that you end up in where your spectators correctly guessed the guess as well, because then if they correctly guess this, and it, of course, is extremely rare, but if they do, you're left with 2 hits, which would usually be a positive thing. But this routine is only designed for 1 hit. You've framed it in a way that only 1 is supposed to hit. So in the previous section, I was joking when I said to you, if the spectator correctly guesses, I don't know what to tell you. I didn't mean it to, I was just joking. When the camera stopped rolling, Jack behind the camera looked at me and said, well, what would you do? What would you do if you ended up in that situation? So I thought we'd jump back on and just quickly share that with you. So I've framed everything as though the guess is meant to be wrong, the intuition is right, but for some reason, they've guessed it correctly. I would show them both because it's going to be a great feeling for them. And I'd say, this almost never happens. And I really wasn't expecting it to happen this time either. But maybe your intuition plays an even greater role in your decision making than I initially thought. And that is incredible. Maybe you have the same sort of skills that I have. Let's explore this further. Let's try something else. And then move into an even bigger routine with them, making them feeling even better about themselves than this caused them to. Because ultimately, they're going to feel great about this. So it's not a bad thing if they correctly guess this. You've just got to frame it in an uplifting way. So it's like, well, I wasn't expecting you to do that, but that's even better than I thought. You're even better at this than I thought you'd be. That's incredible. I'm very, very impressed by that. And then just move on to something else from there. Let it be a positive thing, because it's weird. It's a weird situation where it's gone wrong in a way that's even better. Because it's not what you were hoping would happen, but it did. So it's not a bad thing. If you've got that card in your hand and you've written France and they guess France or whatever, let it be a positive thing, because it's only gonna feel good for them. It doesn't look like anything's gone wrong. Well, nothing's gone wrong that they know of. They got both of them right. So that's a great thing. Maybe they are intuitive. Maybe we should be asking them questions. We should be asking them, how did you do that? Because it'd be worth us knowing. But yeah, I just wanted to jump on and share that with you. So I call this little piece I'm about to show you Hit Like a Psychic. And this is for if you do any sort of readings. I'm not going to teach you how to do readings here. There are plenty of resources out there to learn how to do them. I've already put loads of stuff out on readings myself, and I've got even more stuff coming up. This isn't the place to learn to do readings, but if you already do them, so whether they're tarot readings, palm readings, intuitive style readings, whatever they are, this is a great little sneaky little thing that you can do. I'm personally very comfortable with giving readings, completely propless, intuitive, just talking and giving readings to people. And I also frame it as mind reading. So when I'm giving a reading, I tell people it's mind reading. If they ask me, can I read their mind? I say, yes, absolutely. We can do that now if you want. And there's no props, no gimmicks, and it's just a reading. Standard sort of reading, but I don't tell them it's an intuitive reading or a personality reading or this and that. I say, this is mind reading. And if anybody asks me, well, can you tell me what I'm thinking? I say, well, that's different. That's thought reading, and we can get into that if you want. But mind reading is a more sort of general, the impressions that I receive about what's been going on in your mind. So I'll do that for you. And then if there are any thoughts in particular that you want me to focus on, we can get into that. And then I'll just have a mentalism routine. But this is for the readers out there. So you have, again, 2 business cards and a pen. And you say, well, you bring out one to begin with and say, okay, and your spectator knows that they're expecting a reading from you, not a routine. They're expecting a reading. So you say to them, okay, before we begin, I'm going to make a note of the initial impressions I receive about you. Rather than talking about them later on, I don't want to forget these, so I'm going to write them down now. These are just a couple of things that I sense about you, so give me a moment to do this. Um, okay. Okay. Um, some of these will make sense. Some of them might not make any sense at all. But these are the sort of first impressions I'm receiving when I sit opposite you. I'm going to leave them right there for now. But just so that I can check my accuracy, are you currently in a romantic relationship? Do you have a partner? And let's say they say yes. Excellent. What's your partner's name? And let's say I'm doing the reading for a lady. They say their name is Steve. Steve, okay, excellent. And what do you do for a living? What are you currently doing right now? What work do you do? Let's say they say an artist. I say wonderful, excellent. And what kind of art do you specialize in? I'll let it be a conversation. I say excellent. And what are your ambitions for the future? What's your main sort of goal for the future? And let's say they say they want to move to another country. I say, all right then, excellent. You see, the main sort of areas of your life that I'm picking up on right now are your relationships, your career, and your ambitions for the future. So these are the three topics that I'm going to focus on right now. And let me make a note of these before we forget, because that's what I'll be talking about for your reading. So it's your relationships. So relationships, your career. So I'll make a note of that. So career and your ambitions. So let's write ambition. Okay, excellent. We'll come back to these in a moment. These are what I'll be talking about and focusing on for the reading. But before we continue, I do want to show you what I wrote down here at the beginning. My initial impressions I received when I sat down with you. I didn't know if these would make any sense or not, but I'll show you them now. So your partner, Steve, that's exactly what I was seeing. I got partner and Steve. And I wrote down artist. I didn't know you were an artist. I thought Steve might have been, but turns out you're the artist. And I put move away, and I didn't know what this meant until you said you want to move to another country. So this is perfect for me. We're on the right track. So now, regarding your relationships, your career, and your ambitions, which one of these topics would you like to begin with? Which one of these is more important to you right now? And let's say they say ambitions. I'll say, okay, so let's start with ambitions. We'll put a tick next to this. And then I'll move into a reading from here. So essentially what this allows me to do is, firstly, you get some wild, this is why I call it hit like a psychic, because people always have these stories. Oh, I went to see a psychic. They told me my mum's name, how many kids I have, and whatever else. Anything you want to reveal, you can do here. So it shows that you can receive some impressions. I know this is a dirty way of doing things, but shows that you can receive some really accurate impressions. It encourages your spectator to talk, because this is always a thing. When giving readings, a lot of people often stay silent, and a lot of performers and mentalists and readers feel that they have to be the ones doing all the talking, but that's not the case. It never is. A reading is a conversation. It always is. It has to be, in order for it to be of any value to anybody, whether you're using secrets or not. So it encourages them to talk. They're opening a conversation. They're also giving you some information. And this isn't information that you're going to feed back to them through the reading. You know, this isn't something where they've given you something and then you'll frame it in a way that you're not doing it for that. It just gives you some context. You're learning about this person. You're about to sit down with them for a period of time and you're going to give them a reading. It helps that you know these things in advance, not to feed them back to them, but it just kind of helps you understand about the kind of person they are and who's in their life and who's important to them and what's important to them right now. So you get your initial impressions, and these are all really strong hits. And then there are three areas, and you'll notice they match. There's relationships, and if they're in a relationship or not, their career and their ambitions for the future. So it then gives you something to talk about. So you've given your impressions, and you say, okay, so now, before the reading begins, we're going to focus on the three of these. But which one do we start with? And whichever one they choose, that's the one they're more interested in. That's when the reading is going to be at the strongest. Because if relationships was of concern to them right now, they'll say, well, let's focus on that. I want to hear about that. You know it's important to them, and you know they're in a relationship with Steve. So again, that gives you a great starting point. But in this case, let's say they chose ambitions. It means that the relationship and their career is kind of stable and it's all right. And they don't have any questions or concerns in that area of their life right now. But ambitions, this is what's been on their mind. That's the one thing they're going to want to talk about. You might not even bother with the others if the reading is strong enough for ambitions. Or if you wanted to, another sneaky little trick. It's just an old psychic thing. By the time you've done the reading for ambitions, you could say, you know what? We don't really have time to cover these, but if you'd like to book in with me for a reading, we can put all the time aside that we need to cover these topics. Feel free to do so. On the back of this card, you'll find all of my information, and I've got some availability next week if you'd like to book in for that. And again, you can do that if you want. I don't do that, but it's there if you want to. So again, what happened there was I'm bringing out the card. So I'm going to write down the impressions I received first. I take out a card and all I'm writing is relationships, career, and ambitions. And I've chosen these because all three of them are different. Career and ambitions could be related, but the career, like what are you doing right now? What's your work path? And ambitions could be outside of that. What's your goals in life? And then relationship speaks for itself. If they're not in a relationship, you could find something else to write when it comes to this, but they will give you the information that you're going to put there anyway. So, and they're quite long words. And I've chosen them because you could just write love. You could write love, job, and goals, but they're very short and you don't know what information you're going to get back from them yet. And they might be long. So I wrote partner Steve, has the same sort of length as relationships. So they see me writing something. These are my impressions: relationships, career, ambitions. This goes down there and I say, just so that I can check my accuracy before I move on. And then I just ask them the information I want to know. So I start with relationships. Are you currently in a relationship? And in a reading environment, it's okay to ask them this. They've come to you for help or guidance on something. So they understand that it's okay to share this information with you. And you can even say, what we talk about stays between us, but just so that I can help you get the most out of this, are you currently in a relationship? If they say yes, get some information there for your card. If they say no, you can say interesting, because relationships is kind of a thing that I feel has been on your mind right now. Has a relationship previously ended? Is something start? Are you dating? You can kind of push it in that direction instead. Get something to write for relationships, then get something to write for their career and something for ambitions. And then continue on by saying, yeah, you see, the thing is, of all the different aspects of your life right now, the things that are coming through to me strongest, the things I'm picking up on strongest, are your relationships, your career, and your ambitions for the future. So these are these are topics I'm gonna cover during our reading. So let's write these down. And now you pick this up, you write down all of the information they've just given you. You fold this up, you say, excellent, we'll come back to this in a moment. Let me show you my initial impressions that I received. And you could guess some of this a little bit wrong. You don't need these to be perfect hits. And you can jazz around with it. Okay, I wrote artist. I thought Steve was the artist, but now I realize it's you. And just, it's conversational. Again, these aren't hits. It's not a mentalism reveal. This is a conversation. So you talk about these, you get all these amazing hits, and you say, okay, so now let's continue. So of the three topics, which one would you like to focus on first? And then just take it from there. I understand that most people watching this probably aren't going to do this, but if there are anybody out there that do readings and you want to incorporate these really strong hits at the beginning of your reading, and it gives you a nice format, it's a useful tool. If you're into giving readings and you're comfortable giving readings, this is a really useful tool to use if you want to. It doesn't take any setup or any extra effort, just 2 cards and a pen, and you're ready to go. So now let's talk about how you can use the OTT move as a peek. Again, all you need are 2 business cards and a pen and you're ready to go. So you're going to pre-fold one of these. So you just in the same way as you would for the OTT move. So you fold it in half and then in half again. You then open it up, pick up the pen and gesture to the inside of the card and say to your spectator, I want you to take the card, take the pen, and I want you to write down whatever you need for the routine. So depending on the presentation or the style of routine you're doing, you might have them draw a picture or write something down or whatever. But in this case, let's say they write, again, the name of a loved one. So they've put their hand on the heart, the face of a loved one appears. Excellent. I'm going to hand you a piece of paper and a pen, and nice and clear, and it's important to stress that, nice and clear on the card, I want you to write just their first name. And then when it's done, fold it back up like this. Let me know when you've done that. I'm going to look away. So you hand these to your spectator, and let's say, again, we'll just go with the name. We'll go with Steve because we used it in the last one. Steve. They write down the name on the card, and they're folding it back up. Whilst they're doing that, you've got the other card in your hands, you fold it in half, and then in half again, so it's ready for the switch, and you leave it on the table. You then turn back to them, they've written on the card, they've folded it up, you take it off them and you say, okay, perfect. So right now, you are the only person in the world that knows what's written in here, and it's going to stay that way for the time being. The other card is for me to write on. So in a moment, I'm going to make a note of something on here. I'm going to try and pick up on whatever it is or whatever presentation you're going with. But for the time being, take hold of both of these and hand me the blank one when I ask for it. And then you just continue your effect. So I know it says Steve now. And I say, okay, this is a male. Is this somebody older than you? Yes or no, whatever. Think of the first letter. I'm seeing an S. And at this point, I'd say, you know what? I'm not even going to write it down. I think I can see this crystal clear. Look at me. You're thinking of Steve. And then you just reveal it there and then. So you don't even have to write on the other card. So let's take a look at this. So you've got your 2 blank cards. This one is folded. They write down whatever it is because I'm just kind of trying to show you the method here. And I imagine you're going to want to take this and build your own routine and presentation around it. So they're writing a name, which is folded, whilst you pre-fold this one and put it on the table. Then you take it back from them and say, okay, so right now you're the only person in the world that knows what's in here. You can say whatever you want at this point. But the line you use when you do the switch is you say, the other card is for me to write on. And you do the switch. You can even at this point, as you open it, say, hand me the pen, because you're opening this up. It seems like you're going to write on it now. And just in case any ink bleeds through, you cover the back of it with your hand. So let me show you that again. I take the card to be peeked from them. You're the only person in the world that knows what's written in here. The other card is for me to write on. So hand me the pen. I open this up, and even if it's upside down, I'll turn it the right way. Hand me the pen. I'll be writing on this one in just a moment. So I'll give you these to hold on to, and as I do, I kind of mix them up a little bit. Hold on to both of these and give me the blank one when I ask for it, and I'm never going to ask for it. The reason why I don't ask for it is because they're holding these cards now, and I don't want this awkward moment where they have to open them to see which one the blank one is. You don't need it. It's just a justification for cleaning things up. So you've opened it up, you've got your peek. This one's for me to write on. In just a moment, I'd like you to take hold of these and hand me the blank one when I ask for it. But right now, I just need you to think about this person. Picture their face and your connection to them and whatever. And then when it's time to reveal the name or whatever it is, you say, you know what? I don't even need to write this down. I can see it clearly. You're thinking of Steve or whatever it is. If you wanted to write it down, you could. Just get the blank one back off them. You've already peeked it anyway. So from here, you could write down your impressions and say, all right, I've got what I think this is. Nobody has seen this. Nobody even knows the name of the person you're thinking of, but open it up and on the count of 3, we'll show each other. So 3, 2, 1, what is it, Steve? And there's the reveal. And if you wanted to as well, it's because if you've got other people watching, it's nice for the other people to look at what they've written anyway, because when you reveal it, of course they're going to react and other people will see that, but they need the proof for themselves. Even if they trust this person, they know they're not lying, the proof sinks in because it unfolds perfectly for them. This person wrote something, you haven't seen it, and then you've said the name out loud. The final piece of the puzzle that's missing for them is to actually see what was written at the beginning, and that's when you'll get an even bigger reaction. So do with this what you want. It's just, again, a nice way of getting a peek. One more time, blank one is there, take this from them. Excellent, we'll open this at the end. The other card is for me to write on. Hand me the pen. I'll be writing something down on here in just a moment, but for the time being, hold on to these for me. Keep them in your hand. Hand me the blank one when I ask for it. And there you go. There's the peek done. You can change the wording around here. I just wanted to show you that you can take the card that you want to peek, do the OTT switch, and then open this up and have a look right in front of them. And it absolutely flies by. And again, it's the OTT move that sells this. It really does look like you've swapped them. They've got no reason to believe otherwise. And it's just a really useful peek that you can do at a moment's notice. So I hope you enjoy it. So this is the gaffless force bag. Now, I imagine you're familiar with clear force bags. If you're not, you can find them anywhere. Essentially, it's a clear plastic bag that's got a divider in the middle, again, with clear plastic. In one side of the plastic, you will have cards that have different things written on them, or different playing cards or whatever. And in the other side, so on the other side of the divider, you'd have cards that are all the same. So you can open the side where they're all different, take out a few and show that they're different, put them back in, mix them up, and then open the other side for your spectator to choose one out, and they'll only then be able to choose from the portion that are all the same. So essentially you're forcing whatever you want. But using the OTT switch, you don't need a gimmicked bag. You don't even need to use a force bag anymore. So I have this little document wallet just because, well, you can use anything really. This is just because I had some billets in there already, but you could use a sandwich bag, a Ziploc bag, as long as it's clear. You could use one of those A4 sort of clear document sleeves. You can have a bowl, a whiskey glass, anything. Anything that you can put cards or billets into, you'll be able to use. And what's nice about this is there are no duplicates of the thing that you're going to be forcing. There's only one. And that's really nice. So everything can be borrowed, and there are no gaffes or gimmicks here. So you're completely bulletproof. You start and end completely clean, and there is no setup. Just borrow these items and you're ready to go. All right, so I have some cards now. These are some of the cards from the previous things that I've shown you. I've just folded them up to give you an example. And they do have different things. So this one's blank. This one, what's on this? One of the Dad John billets. So they're all just random. But let's say what I want to force is this one right here, and I've drawn a big X on it. So all I'm going to be doing is secretly marking this card. And I'm not going to be doing nail nicks or pencil dots or anything like that. There's a really easy way to make this card stand out from the rest. So, as you may notice, I haven't folded this yet. I've written down or drawn the information that I want to force. Then when I fold this in half, what I'm going to do is I'm going to overfold it quite a bit. So what I mean by that is, I'm not folding it so that the two edges meet. I'm going past that. I'm overfolding the card. Just by a little bit, less than half a centimetre, quarter of an inch, something like that. Then I'm going to fold it in half again. So what this leaves me with is a lip, a tiny lip that can be seen on both sides of the card. The fold overlaps, and none of the other cards have that. So you can have all of these pre-written, or whatever let's say, I wouldn't do this with celebrities, but let's use celebrities for example. You can hand out cards to your spectators, just pre-fold them in advance so you know you won't end up with this. Pre-fold them, hand them all out and say, I'd like everyone to just write down the name of a celebrity, the first one you think of, and the one that you need to force, as long as you're the one that writes it and folds it, then you can force it. But again, I'm getting off topic there. You can do anything you want, but essentially, this is the card I'm going to force, and it's marked. So one more time. When I fold it, I've overfolded it, and then I fold it normally here, so I've got this extra lip. So when this is in the bag with the rest of them, I'll be able to see it easily. All right, and again, you can use anything. Sandwich bag, Ziploc bag, a glass bowl, whiskey glass, whatever. And then you're just gonna put all of these inside. Be sure to include this one. All right then you can mix these up, you can have them shaken, do whatever you want, and then you're ready to start. So you'd say to your spectator, all right then, so in a moment, I'll ask you to reach inside and just take out one of these and place it on the table, but don't open it yet. Now, it's important that this is completely random, so don't aim for a specific one or anything like that. Just trust your feelings, go through there, grab the one that feels right and put it on the table. Now, the amazing thing here is your spectator will rummage through these, they'll grab whichever one, so let's just go with one, and they'll put it on the table. And because of the way you've marked the billet, you can just look at this, and if that's the marked one, amazing, job done. You can just say, excellent, you could have chosen any one of these, but this is the one that you've gone with. And then they open it up, they have a look at the information, and then you reveal it, or it's in a prediction beforehand, or whatever you want to do with it. But there's every chance that they could take out the marked one. If they don't, so in this case, this isn't the marked one, they put it on the table, stand it up, position it how it needs to be, and say, interesting. You could have chosen any one of these, and if you want to, you can even change your mind. Would you like to put it back and choose another? And if they say yes, another opportunity to get the marked one. If they say no, go, excellent, well, in that case, this is the one that we'll stick with. See, you could have had any of these, and if you'd have chosen a different one, so let's say, for example, you could have ended up with this, whatever it happens to be, but you didn't. You went with this one. So, in fact, before we look at the one you've chosen, take a look at what you could have had. And they open this up. And this says Steve, apparently. You could have had that. And in fact, you can open any of these and have a look at what you could have had too, but this is the one that you wanted. And even when I gave you the option to change your mind, you didn't. You wanted to stick with this one. Let's have a look. And then you'd open it up and reveal it in an envelope or whatever, or hand it straight to them and say, okay, have a look at what that information is. And then when it's done, close it and put it back in your pocket and then continue with your routine from there. Obviously, the reveal is up to you, but that's the force. So let's do this one more time, just quickly. This will be in whatever container you have, along with the force one, that's mixed up in there too. And of course, don't have millions of them because you need to be, and this is why it's clear, you need to be able to spot where the marked one is. And if you've got millions of them in there, you're going to struggle. So just a few, 10 or less is fine. So you reach inside, they take one out. I'll try and not get the marked one. place it on the table, stand it up for them perfectly and say, okay, excellent. And have a look. If it's the marked one, great. If it isn't, just continue with excellent. Are you happy with that? You could have chosen any of these. And if you want to, you can even change your mind. Would you like to put it back and choose another? Just to buy yourself a chance for them to pick marked one again. And they can change their mind if they want, doesn't really matter. If they change their mind and they end up with the marked one, great. If they end up with another one, doesn't matter. You're in the same position, the same situation. All right, and you could have chosen any of these. In fact, if you would have taken one out an extra second later or sooner or whatever, you could have ended up with something completely different, like this one, for example. But this is the one that you chose. Open this, have a look, see what you could have ended up with. They have a look and push this to someone else and have a look. What else could there have been? You can see they're all different. But this is the one that you chose. Let's take a look and see what you got. And then you open this up. There's your force, and then reveal it however you want, or give it to them to open and do whatever you want. And then, of course, everything's clean. These can all be examined and kept. There are no duplicates. This is ungaffed. It's perfect. You'll never need to use a force bag again. You can just do this, borrow everything, and you can force anything. So this is two-person telepathy. Now the method for this is really cheeky, but I think you'll like it. This would be great for a parlor-style setting, but of course you could perform this close-up too if you wanted. All you need are 2 business cards and a pen and you're ready to begin. You also need 2 spectators. And you say, all right then, so we're going to be doing an experiment in telepathy. One of you will think of something and the other one of you will try and receive what that thought is. So rather than doing telepathy with me, we'll do some of that later on. This is between the 2 of you. I want to see if you can do this. So, as I say, one of you will be the sender, one of you will be the receiver, and both roles are equally as difficult. You see, whoever the sender is has to be able to project a thought to somebody else or transmit a thought to somebody else, and the receiver has to be open-minded enough to be able to receive that thought. Without efforts from both sides, this cannot work. So, we're going to keep this nice and simple because it is extremely difficult to do. I'm going to assign you your roles, and we'll use these pieces of paper to do this. So firstly, this will be receiver. This will be receiver, and I'm going to give you some extra information, some extra instructions on what you need to be able to do this. So, excellent, that one's for the receiver. And of course, the other one is for the sender. This will be for the sender. And I'm going to, again, give you just some extra instructions, just something that might help you. So, all right then. And that one's for the sender. All right, so here's what we'll do. I'm going to mix these up a little bit just so that we don't know which one is which. And you hand this to another spectator and saying, you give them a mix as well. That way none of us know which one is which. And they hand them back to you. You say, okay, perfect. So let's start with this one. Whichever one this is, it'll be for you. Now, I'm not going to look at this, and I'm not going to show anybody else either. Only you will know your role. I don't want to complicate this, and I don't want anybody overthinking this. So just take a look at this. Have a read of it. This will assign you your role. You've got it? All right, excellent. So now you know what your role is. And of course, the other one is for you. So again, none of us will look. Just take a look at this. You know your role. Excellent. And we'll put these off to the side. So one of you is the sender, one of you is the receiver. Whichever one of you is the sender, I want you to get a clear image in mind of what the thought is that you're going to be sending. See it in perfect detail. And whichever one of you is the receiver, just keep a nice, clear, open mind. And when you receive the image, it'll feel like it's coming from your imagination. But it's not imaginary. You're not imagining it. You've just got to be willing to receive it. All right, so take a look into each other's eyes. It'll be a little bit uncomfortable at first, but that discomfort will settle. And then suddenly you'll realize you'll be able to do this. Take a few moments to do that. So you give them a few moments to have their moment. And then you say, okay, now at this point, I feel that you both have a thought in mind right now. So on the count of 3, I'll snap my fingers. And when I do, I want you to both name out loud the thought that you have. And let's see if this works. 3, 2, 1. And they'll both say the same thought out loud. In this case, it would be an apple. And they both say apple. Excellent. And then you're left clean. These can be examined if they want. You leave them to talk amongst themselves. And now let's take a look at the method. And I've got a nice, funny little line you can use to clean this up at the end. So what's happening here is, on the first card, The extra, so I wrote down receiver and I show it to everybody. I want them to see that it says receiver. And then my extra instruction was keep an open mind. This is folded and placed on the table, and it's folded neatly as well. This one doesn't need to be marked. But then the one for the sender, again, I write out the word sender at the top and I let them see, just so that they can see that both of these are different. And then my extra instructions were please think of an apple, or whatever you want to force, or whatever you want the thought to be. Then, in the same way we did with the previous routine, you're going to mark this. You overfold it, and then you fold it normally, so you end up with that extra lip, just so it's different from, so that when these are mixed, you will know which one it is. You mix them up. You can have somebody else mix these up if you want. You take them back, and then just pick up the one that you know is the sender, so it's the one that's marked. This one goes on the table. You say to the other person, all right, I'm going to show this to you. I won't show it to anybody else because it'll overcomplicate things. And I don't want to risk not being able to do this. Let's just keep this clean and clear. I only want you to see this. And of course, I know it's the one that says sender. So I let them see this. I make sure it's the right way for them. And they are reading sender. Please think of an apple. So you fold this back up. You do the OTT move and you say, and of course, the other one is for you. So take a look at this, and they're getting the same one, so they both think they're the sender. This is a really, really old stage mentalism ploy, but it was usually done with duplicates and things like that. I've not seen it done in this way before. So they have their role, so now they both think they're the sender. So you say to them, all right then, now if you are the sender, you should already have a thought in mind by now, and of course it's the apple. And whatever this, and this thought, whatever it is, make it nice and clear. However you choose to imagine it, that's up to you, but make it nice and clear in vivid detail in your mind. Whichever one of you is the receiver, and you can say whatever you want here, because none of them are the receiver. Yeah, you'll get this strange feeling, and the thought will just appear slowly, like in a cloud, in a mist, in your imagination, whatever. They're both thinking, they both think they're the sender. So then you have them look at each other, give them a moment to do this, and you say, okay, so right now, I feel you both have a thought in mind, because this person will think they are the receiver, and this person will think they are the receiver. And of course, they both have a thought in mind. It's the same one from the paper. It's an apple. So you both have a thought in mind. Here's what we'll do. I'm going to say 3, 2, 1. I'll snap my fingers, and I want you both to say out loud the thought that you've got, or the thought that you got, whatever you want to say. 3, 2, 1, and they both say apple. And then this is great. It looks like you've just caused telepathy between two people. And these are clean. Of course, one of them says, think of an apple. You don't have to show them. You can just put these away, place them off to the side and send them back to their seats. That's why it's great for parlor, because you're trying to avoid them talking afterwards. If you've done this for close-up, there is every risk that they will talk afterwards and say, well, I was the sender. And the other one will be like, well, no, I was the sender. So if you just want to clean that up a little bit before you leave, you say, now, telepathy is a very strange thing, and it's not something we experience in our daily lives. And when we experience something that's unnatural to us or a little bit different from what we're used to, the brain chooses, or the mind chooses, various ways to understand what happened. And I don't know which one of you was the receiver, but from this point on, you might even start to feel like you were the one that originally had the thought and were trying to send it. Maybe that's your brain's way. That usually happens. It might be different for you, but and basically what you're doing here is you're just justifying them both thinking they were the sender. So my main point here is, I don't know which one of you was the receiver, and none of them are going to put their hand up anyway. I don't know which one of you it was, but whoever the receiver was, when you receive a thought from somebody else in this way, the only time the mind can sort of really try and understand what happened there is if it convinces itself it came from the self originally. So you're basically saying, look, you might think you were the sender even though you're the receiver. And this is a line that I don't have perfectly fluid. This isn't a script that I don't have, because I've only ever done this in a parlor setting and I've never needed to use the line. I picked two people who don't know each other, two people who aren't going to speak afterwards. And it's just a great little piece. So I hope you like it. So this is two-person telepathy. Now the method for this is really cheeky, but I think you'll like it. This would be great for a parlor-style setting, but of course you could perform this close-up too if you wanted. All you need are 2 business cards and a pen, and you're ready to begin. You also need 2 spectators. And you say, all right then, so we're going to be doing an experiment in telepathy. One of you will think of something, and the other one of you will try and receive what that thought is. So rather than doing telepathy with me, we'll do some of that later on. This is between the two of you. I want to see if you can do this. So, as I say, one of you will be the sender, one of you will be the receiver, and both roles are equally as difficult. You see, whoever the sender is has to be able to project a thought to somebody else or transmit a thought to somebody else, and the receiver has to be open-minded enough to be able to receive that thought. Without efforts from both sides, this cannot work. So, we're going to keep this nice and simple because it is extremely difficult to do. I'm going to assign you your roles, and we'll use these pieces of paper to do this. So firstly, this will be receiver. This will be receiver, and I'm going to give you some extra information, some extra instructions on what you need to be able to do this. So excellent, that one's for the receiver. And of course, the other one is for the sender. This will be for the sender. And I'm going to, again, give you just some extra instructions, just something that might help you. So, all right then. And that one's for the sender. All right, so here's what we'll do. I'm going to mix these up a little bit just so that we don't know which one is which. And you'd hand this to another spectator and saying, you give them a mix as well. That way none of us know which one is which. And they hand them back to you. You say, okay, perfect. So let's start with this one. Whichever one this is, it'll be for you. Now, I'm not going to look at this, and I'm not going to show anybody else either. Only you will know your role. I don't want to complicate this, and I don't want anybody overthinking this. So just take a look at this. Have a read of it. This will assign you your role. You've got it? All right, excellent. So now you know what your role is. And of course, the other one is for you. So again, none of us will look. Just take a look at this. You know your role. Excellent. And we'll put these off to the side. So one of you is the sender, one of you is the receiver. Whichever one of you is the sender, I want you to get a clear image in mind of what the thought is that you're going to be sending. See it in perfect detail. And whichever one of you is the receiver, just keep a nice, clear, open mind. And when you receive the image, it'll feel like it's coming from your imagination. But it's not imaginary. You're not imagining it. You've just got to be willing to receive it. All right, so take a look into each other's eyes. It'll be a little bit uncomfortable at first, but that discomfort will settle. And then suddenly you'll realize you'll be able to do this. Take a few moments to do that. So you give them a few moments to have their moment. And then you say, okay, now at this point, I feel that you both have a thought in mind right now. So on the count of 3, I'll snap my fingers. And when I do, I want you to both name out loud the thought that you have. And let's see if this works. 3, 2, 1. And they'll both say the same thought out loud. In this case, it'll be an apple. And they both say apple. Excellent. And then you're left clean. These can be examined if they want. You leave them to talk amongst themselves. And now let's take a look at the method. And I've got a nice, funny little line you can use to clean this up at the end. So what's happening here is, on the first card, the extra, so I wrote down receiver and I show it to everybody. I want them to see that it says receiver. And then my extra instruction was keep an open mind. This is folded and placed on the table, and it's folded neatly as well. This one doesn't need to be marked. But then the one for the sender, again, I write out the word sender at the top and I let them see just so that they can see that both of these are different. And then my extra instructions were please think of an apple or whatever you want to force or whatever you want the thought to be. Then, in the same way we did with the previous routine, you're going to mark this. You overfold it and then you fold it normally. So you end up with that extra lip. Just so it's different from, so that when these are mixed, you will know which one it is. You mix them up. You can have somebody else mix these up if you want. You take them back and then just pick up the one that you know is the sender. So it's the one that's marked. This one goes on the table. You say to the other person, all right, I'm going to show this to you. I won't show it to anybody else because it'll overcomplicate things. And I don't want to risk not being able to do this. Let's just keep this clean and clear. I only want you to see this. And of course, I know it's the one that says sender. So I let them see this. I make sure it's the right way for them, and they are reading sender, please think of an apple. So you fold this back up, you do the OTT move, and you say, and of course the other one is for you. So take a look at this, and they're getting the same one, so they both think they're the sender. This is a really, really old stage mentalism ploy, but it was usually done with duplicates and things like that. I've not seen it done in this way before. So they have their role, so now they both think they're the sender. So you say to them, all right then, now if you are the sender, you should already have a thought in mind by now, and of course it's the apple. And whatever this and this thought, whatever it is, make it nice and clear. However you choose to imagine it, that's up to you. But make it nice and clear in vivid detail in your mind. Whichever one of you is the receiver, and you can say whatever you want here because none of them are the receiver. Yeah, you'll get this strange feeling, and the thought will just appear slowly, like in a cloud, in a mist, in your imagination, whatever. They're both thinking. They both think they're the sender. So then you have them look at each other, give them a moment to do this, and you say, okay, so right now, I feel you both have a thought in mind, because this person will think they are the receiver, and this person will think they are the receiver. And of course, they both have a thought in mind. It's the same one from the paper. It's an apple. So you both have a thought in mind. Here's what we'll do. I'm going to say 3, 2, 1. I'll snap my fingers, and I want you both to say out loud the thought that you've got, or the thought that you got, whatever you want to say. 3, 2, 1, and they both say apple. And then this is great. It looks like you've just caused telepathy between two people. And these are clean. Of course, one of them says, think of an apple. You don't have to show them. But you can just put these away, place them off to the side, and send them back to their seats. That's why it's great for Parlour, because you're trying to avoid them talking afterwards. If you've done this for close-up, there is every risk that they will talk afterwards and say, well, I was the sender. And the other one will be like, well, no, I was the sender. So if you just want to clean that up a little bit before you leave, you say, now, telepathy is a very strange thing, and it's not something we experience in our daily lives. And when we experience something that's unnatural to us or a little bit different from what we're used to, the brain chooses, or the mind chooses, various ways to understand what happened. And I don't know which one of you was the receiver, but from this point on, you might even start to feel like you were the one that originally had the thought and were trying to send it. Maybe that's your brain's way. That usually happens. It might be different for you, but and basically what you're doing here is you're just justifying them both thinking they were the sender. So my main point here is, I don't know which one of you was the receiver, and none of them are going to put their hand up anyway. I don't know which one of you it was, but whoever the receiver was, when you receive a thought from somebody else in this way, the only time the mind can sort of really try and understand what happened there is if it convinces itself it came from the self originally. So you're basically saying, look, you might think you were the sender even though you're the receiver. And this is a line that I don't have perfectly fluid. This isn't a script that I don't have, because I've only ever done this in a Parlour setting and I've never needed to use the line. I picked two people who don't know each other, two people who aren't going to speak afterwards. And it's just a great little piece. So I hope you like it. So this is Delphi Q&A. Now, I'll be honest with you, I'm going to struggle a little bit to explain this one, so I'm going to explain it a little bit differently from how I've explained all of the others. This is a one-person Q&A. So your spectator thinks of a question, they write it down, you apparently never see that question, and you are able to not only reveal the question, but also provide them with an answer. And then there's like a little beautiful deep bit of historical philosophy to end with. So one of my biggest inspirations is the Oracle of Delphi. She was the most powerful woman of ancient Greece. There were different oracles over time, and they'd always be at the Temple of Apollo. If there was a Temple of Apollo, they had an oracle. And the most famous one in history was in Delphi in Greece, where the Temple of Apollo was. And there would be the Pythia, the priestess. And to cut a lot, you can Google all of this, you can research it online, but to cut a long story short, people from all over would travel far and wide on certain times of the year to go to the Temple of Apollo. They would meet the oracle and they'd have questions, really important questions about their life, and the oracle would provide them with an answer. But the answers were never direct and straightforward and literal. They were always metaphorical, and they needed some time and some understanding, some time to think about and interpret. One of my biggest inspirations, and a few years ago I got a chance to go over to Greece and do a huge Q&A for a lot of people, and it was all themed around the Oracle of Delphi, and we were a stone's throw from a Temple of Apollo. So we could see the ruins of the temple, and we were in the same sort of space where the Oracle could have been. I had all of these people, I did a big Q&A, it was themed, it was even advertised as well. It said Louis Laval, Oracle of Delphi, and then there was this talk about the Oracle, and then a performance sort of reigniting that ancient tradition. And this is inspired by that. Now, of course, you don't have to do it in the same way that I do. You'll just have to think about how you're going to reword this and change this. But this is also helpful for anybody watching this that has struggled to answer questions. If you're doing readings and a spectator has a question, you don't know how to answer it, or you're doing a Q&A and you need to, like a Q&A style routine where your audience asks questions and you provide intuitive answers. This can solve that problem for you. All right, so what I have here is my pen, my two business cards. On one of them, I've written the words, know thyself. So this right here are the most famous two words of the Oracle of Delphi. The original quote, the original Oracle quote is this, and it's kind of beautiful and poetic. So the quote was, heed these words, you who wish to probe the depths of nature. If you do not find within yourself that which you seek, neither will you find it outside. Hidden in you is the treasure of treasures. Know thyself and you will know the universe and the gods. And the most important part of that whole message are the words, know thyself. And it's a beautiful way of answering questions, which we'll talk about later on. So I've written the words, know thyself. And it's face down between these two cards. So when I bring these out, I can show them both as blank. And I'd normally do this with a thinner pen, so like a ballpoint pen, so not a thick Sharpie. The only reason I'm using a Sharpie right now is so that it's easier for you to see on camera. So you bring out the two cards and the pen, and you can very casually show both sides of these. This looks blank. And then you can do a very simple frustration count. So so this one's blank. The know thyself is face down on top. I can show both sides of this like so. And when I put it back down, I use my thumb to take the card that's got the writing on, which is now here. And now I can show both sides of this. So basically, it looks like you're showing two blank cards, but one of them has the secret writing on. The one that you've ended up with here, you're going to fold it in half and then in half again. And you say to your spectator, now, I'd like you to think of a question, an important question in your life, something that you don't already know the answer to. And it has to concern you directly as well, something in your life. So it can't be about other people in your life or other people you know. You can't ask, when are Jack and Jill going to get married or anything like that. Something about you, something that you don't already know the answer to. I want you to think of a question. I'll give you a moment to do this and try and condense it into as few words as possible, because then you'll get the core essence of the question itself. I'll give you all the time you need to do this. I'm going to hand you this paper and this pen, and I want you to write down what this question is. Make it nice and clear. Put it as clear on the paper as it is in your mind. And when you've written that question, fold it back up again like so. I'm going to look away while you do this. I'll give you some privacy, and I don't want anybody else to see this either. So if you want to go and stand over there and do this, feel free. Whilst they're doing that, you take the other card, the one that says know thyself on it, and you be careful not to flash it. So when you pick this up, just in case any ink bleeds through, cover the back of it, and you're going to fold this up. Fold it in half, and then in half again, and place it on the table. So at this point, they've written their question. I'm just going to do a question mark at this point. So we'll do this here. So it's nice and clear for you to see. They've written their question. You take it, they hand it back to you, and you say, okay, now whatever is in here, whatever you've written is going to be important to you. So here's what we'll do. And then you're ready to do the over-the-top move. So here's the question. Whatever this is, I'm not going to ask you to say it out loud. I imagine it's personal and it's important to you. The other card I'm going to use to write an answer on. Even though I don't know your question, I'm going to give you an answer. So give me a moment to do this. And you take the pen, you open this up, and now look at what I've got here. This is their question. So even if it's upside down, I'll turn it the right way and I'll look at them, I'll go, okay, I've got it. And now I'm pretending to write an answer. Well, I'm gonna mime writing know thyself, because that's what's going to be written on that one. So as I'm miming, it's very easy to do two things at once here. I'm essentially reading their question whilst moving my hand in these two simple words, know thyself. And what I'm doing is to make it sound like I'm writing on the paper. The nib of the pen isn't actually touching it. I'm just pushing my finger forwards and I'm using my fingernail. So any sound they hear is not the pen touching the paper, it's just my nail scratching against it. So I'm reading the question and I'm miming the words, know thyself. Or, something similar. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I say, okay, here's your answer, but I don't want you to read it just yet. And I pick up both of these and I say, put both of them in your pocket, leave them in there. So at this point, I know what their question is, and I've given them an answer, know thyself. So I look at them and say, okay, everything I'm about to do is inspired by ancient Greece, specifically the Oracle of Delphi. She was the most powerful woman of ancient Greece. People would travel from far and wide to come and ask her questions. Everybody from royalty to farmers. Anybody could turn up, they'd ask her a question, they'd get an answer. But the answers were never direct. They were always metaphorical and meaningful, and you had to really think about them to understand them. But in order for her to give you an answer, she first had to know the question. So think about this question now and give me a moment to do this. You can do any acting you need here, any acting. Make this as believable and as real as possible. And here you can slowly start to reveal the question because you've just read it all. You can reveal little specific details here and there. Don't reveal it exactly how they've written it. Just basically reveal enough to let them know that you now know what the question is. And then you can start to give them an answer. Now, the beautiful thing here is it doesn't matter what the question is. You need to, the answer is know thyself, which is basically understand yourself, look within yourself, know who you are and what the most important things about you are. Understand your identity, your sense of self, what's going on within you. Who are you truly? And that is how you'll answer any question ever. So, if the question was, am I going to be healthy in the future? Know thyself. Well, only you can know the answer to that because you know what's going on within your body and the decisions you'll make that can affect your health. Am I going to be wealthy in the future? Know thyself. What decisions are you going to make now that could lead you to being wealthy? So you can give them an answer here. So basically the answer is know thyself, understand yourself, but you're not going to say those words. You're going to interpret it for them. You've already got the answer. Interpret it for them in a way that could answer the question. And you're not giving them a direct answer here, which is great because the oracle never did. And you've just said this is inspired by the oracle. But it's something for them to go away and think about. If the question was, am I going to be wealthy? You don't know that. You can't look at them and say yes or no. And if you do give them a definite answer, they're going to be satisfied. There's no reason for them to think about things afterwards. But if you've dressed this up in metaphor and meaning, and especially if you already have some reading techniques behind you that you can use here, you're answering the question through the answer of understand yourself, look within you, the answer is in you. And then once you've given them an answer, or once you've continued to talk and you can't think of anything else to say, you can say, now look, I have also written down an answer for you. But that answer didn't come from me. That came from the Oracle of Delphi herself. She said many incredible things that have been documented throughout history, but the two most famous words, the most powerful, most profound words that she ever said, I've written for you on that card there. But I don't want you to read this yet, because if you look at that right now, you're not in the right state of mind to receive it. And you might easily and very quickly dismiss it. It might not mean anything to you. So instead, wait until you're alone, or wait until later on tonight. Read your question again, really think about it, and then look at the answer and think about that too. And then, as you go about your days from there on, the answer will start to fall into place for you. The more you think about it and the deeper into this you delve, that is where you'll find your answer. So you won't find it outside anywhere, you'll find it within you. And everything you need is on that card. Thank you very much. And then you just leave them with that. It's beautiful. So, again, one more time. I won't go through all of that one more time. I saw Jack flinch then when he thought I was going to do that again. Just the handling. So, I've got my cards. One of them, let me just grab two more to make this clear. One of them says the words, know thyself. And just to save time, I won't write it again. Both of these are blank. The blank one is here, know thyself is there. You can show both sides of these. You can do a very simple frustration count just to make it look like both of these are blank. Blank one is now here, as you say, here's what I want you to do. Take this, you fold it up. Take this, write a question. If you can't remember the scripting, just go back to this previous, skip back 5 minutes and you'll see they go and write a question. Whilst they're doing that, you pick this up and fold it. All right, so you've got a folded one that says know thyself, which goes on here. They come back with the question. You say, now I'm not going to ask you to read this out loud. I'm not going to ask you to say this out loud. It's personal and it's unique to you. The other card is for me to write on. So there's the move, right? So I've still got the question here now. This one is for me to write on. I'm going to give you an answer. Even though I don't know the question, I have an answer for you. You open this up, take the pen. You're going to mime your writing whilst you read this. Once you're satisfied that you know what the question is, fold this back up and say, here, take both of these, put them in your pocket, don't show them to anybody. And now this is clean. Once that goes into the pocket, there's no way of knowing which one was which. And then from here, you're revealing the question. You're talking about the history of this. If you want to do this with the Delphic Oracle theme, you're revealing the question, give them an answer, and you already have an answer. As I say, you can use this to answer any question. Give them the answer, interpret it for them, just don't say the words know thyself, and then at the end say, look, I've written an answer for you. That answer didn't come from me. It came from the Oracle of Delphi herself. She said many incredible things through the years that have been documented throughout history, but the most profound, the most powerful thing she ever said is right there on that card, and that's for you. And then you wrap it up nicely like that. The sort of universal answer The Know Thyself is from the Oracle of Delphi, but the idea of giving a universal answer first came to me from Michael Murray. I was having a chat with him about answering questions. I showed him my Q&A routine, and he told me about a different answer that he has that's universal. It's really good, beautiful, but it's not mine to share. I can't share this here, but I imagine Michael Murray has that hidden somewhere within his incredible work. But this, again, is just as powerful. And it doesn't matter what the question is, you'll always get it there. As long as you have them write down a question that they don't already have an answer to, then that's it. Because they're not challenging you here. They're not testing you. They are seeking some genuine guidance and advice. So don't take that lightly. Take it as seriously as they are, because that could be you never know what that question is going to be until you read it. It could be something really personal or really emotional. So just handle it with care, and you'll have one of the prettiest and one of the most beautiful things you could ever do for another person through mentalism. And for me, that's it. So thank you. I hope you enjoy it. So hopefully now you can see that just this little move, it's so simple. But look at all of the things that I've shared with you here, and it doesn't just stop at that. There's so much more that you can do with this. This very simple, very easy move now allows you to do things that you wouldn't have been able to do previously, or if you could, I certainly haven't thought of them. For example, the clear plastic force bag. Now you don't need a gimmicked one. You can do that with this move. You can peek, you can switch things, you can do one-aheads and reveal things that aren't even written down. There's so much you can do with just this tiny little beautiful move. And the annoying thing is, I come up with this years ago, and at the time I didn't realize just how good it was. I'm really proud of it, super proud of it. At the time, because I said at the beginning it was to solve a problem for me, essentially I was in a routine where I was one ahead. And I had that problem of how do I fix the one ahead to make sense in the routine for my spectators. And I just created this move, and then that was it. And I've used it for years, and through the years I've found all of these extra little things. And then only very recently I've realized that this is useful and people will get use from it. And other mentalists have seen this and they've gone, I absolutely love that. And I thought, you know what? This needs to be a project. I have taught it in the past in smaller downloads, nowhere near as in much detail as this, just the move itself. But I realize now it deserves so much more than that, and I'm hoping that's what I've achieved with this project. And the only limits are your imagination. Now that you know the move, you can build entire routines around it, and it doesn't have to be just fixing a one ahead like it originally was. It can be to accomplish pretty much anything you want to achieve in mentalism, as long as you can justify having that other card there, which is very easy to do, as I'm sure you've seen. There's no limits to what you can do with this thing. So thank you very much for watching. I really hope you got something from this. If none of the routines, at least the move itself. And I hope it serves you well in your mentalism performances. Thank you for watching. My name is Lewis Laval, and this was OTT.